It's my pleasure to welcome Marcus Bolt here. Marcus, I've always wanted to say this about somebody I introduce, is a man of many parts. When I first joined Subud, which was 29 years ago now, I took it quite seriously for the first few months until I came across a book called A Laugh Within a Laugh by these two fellows called Marcus Bolt and Dirk Campbell. And it was sort of like the Monty Python treatment of the laddie and the terminology of Subud. And it was certainly a breath of fresh air and loads of fun. I'm sure Marcus has done many other things that I'm aware of a few of them. He was instrumental in the Subud Writers International magazine, or SWIM, in doing the layout for that. And currently he's doing a twice a month, fortnightly, as you call it in the UK, electronic publication for Subud Britain, keeping everybody up to date. Now, in terms of his poetry, I interviewed Marcus about a week ago and posted that interview on YouTube. And the poetry that he shared at that time was poetry that poured out of him about 5 years ago, when he had the immense personal tragedy of losing his longtime wife suddenly, Rosalind, to a stroke, and then she died a few days later. And this was a horrendous event, as you can imagine, for anybody to have that suddenly happen and to lose somebody who's such a part of your life. So I commend you to watching that YouTube video. And other than that, I'm going to now go to Marcus and let him take it from here. You're going to have about 20 minutes or so, Marcus, as much time as you want, actually. And when you're through, you tell us, and then we'll have a go at you. So take it from here.
Right. Oh, thank you. And hi, everybody. And thank you so much for coming. And many thanks to Andrew for organizing this. Yes, as Andrew said, yeah, it was, I don't really consider myself a poet, but I did find writing poetry when my wife died to be alongside the latter hand, to be a great help, because it was pretty traumatic. 1 minute we were laughing together, and a few hours later, Rosalind was in a coma, and then 3 or 4 days later, she was dead, so it was pretty traumatic. But for me, the worst thing was with a sudden death, there's no time to make amends, tell your partner how much you love them, how much, what they mean to you. And so all that goes out the window. So there's a sort of remorse that those things didn't get said. And I got a note here to say, all of those in a relationship, make sure you do it often, just in case it happens to you. And now I realized, looking at the poems again, that they are mostly directed to Rosalind because of that. They're kind of trying to make up for all the things I didn't say when I should have done. And I read one really interesting book by a young writer. It was a bit of a top seller, about the novel about the protagonist's young wife dying in a road accident, and he was left with 2 boys to bring up. And he made this wonderful point, and it really meant something to me, where he said there was no medical paraphernalia around the house, no pills and potions lying about. He said, because she wasn't busy dying, she was busy living. And that's exactly, I mean, in the morning, Rosalind had the stroke. At breakfast, she just finished a BA, a degree course in creative arts, and we were talking about her going on to do an MA, and afterwards, you find, sort of a marked and unfinished novel lying around, the odd £10 note in a drawer. It was just, as I said, she was all about busy living. And what was interesting is afterwards, of course, I had to go on being busy living with the banality of life, you know, doing shopping, running the house, etc., but overlaid by this grief and trauma. Now, I want to start by reading a wonderful poem I found the other day, written by a lady called Marie Howe, who is one of the leading American contemporary poets. And this is, you know, kind of real poetry. And I realize it's what I tried to emulate in mine. But anyway, I'll read hers first, and then I'll go straight on reading mine and making one or two comments as we go. Okay, this one is called What the Living Do. Johnny, the kitchen sink has been clogged for days. Some utensil probably fell down there. And the Drano won't work, but smells dangerous. And the crusty dishes have piled up waiting for the plumber I still haven't called. This is the everyday we spoke of. It's winter again. The skies are deep, headstrong blue, and the sunlight pours through the open living room windows because the heat's on too high in here and I can't turn it off. For weeks now, driving or dropping a bag of groceries in the street, the bag breaking, I've been thinking, this is what the living do. And yesterday, hurrying along those wobbly bricks in the Cambridge sidewalk, spilling my coffee down my wrist and sleeve, I thought it again, and again later when buying a hairbrush. This is it. Parking, slamming the car door shut in the cold. What you called that yearning. What you finally gave up. We want the spring to come and the winter to pass. We want whoever to call or not call, a letter, a kiss. We want more and then more of it. But there are moments walking when I catch a glimpse of myself in the window glass, say the window of the corner video store, and I'm gripped by a cherishing so deep for my own blowing hair, chapped face and unbuttoned coat that I'm speechless. I am living. I remember you. And now I'm going to read you the first one of mine. This was actually a real experience. And it's called Losing You Again. I entered the room and switched on the light. You were in bed, shifting, disturbed. For a couple of seconds, a joyous uprising. It hadn't happened. You were still here. Our old life was back. Shift to clarity, a trick of the mind. Synapses triggering past realities. Only the duvet folded your side. It happens, they warn me, all part of grieving, very long process, one day acceptance. But tonight I'm bereft, sobbing my heart out, losing you yet again. This one is just called Our Marriage. After we wed, it was springtime and all was green, fresh and new. No longer singular, we gamboled together like shorn lambs, life budding in your womb. And then it was summer, days were long and brim full. We toiled as a team under blue skies, building and growing home, family, careers. The ochred years of autumn came, bringing mellow harvest moons. We shared plump fruits and grandkids' love, comfortable, strolling arm in arm. White-haired winter arrived. Under the blankets we snuggled against wind, frost and snow. We expected a long hibernation, but you were whisked away. Now I'm an aging bullock in a field all on its own, gloomily grazing on memories, every day watching out for the abattoir van. That one was interesting because it's all really based on the last verse, in that I don't know if poets talk about the same thing, but painters often talk about aperçu, those little moments you notice something and it's a kind of inspiration or it brings clarity. And I used to live in Bristol, and my house overlooked fields where there were always herds of cows or bullocks usually. And I did notice one day there was just one bullock in the field. And at first it just seemed really sad, that because they're herd animals, they don't like to be on their own. And then I just cunningly associated me with it in a way. And, you know, now I'm getting on a bit. There is that sense of every day looking out for the abattoir van. It's going to turn up one day. Could be 10 years, could be tomorrow. This one's again about the kind of banality of living during, as I said, during being overlaid with grief. It's just called Getting Through the Days. It's 5:30 p.m, done all my work. Soon I'll make supper, then watch TV till it's time for bed. On the surface, no different from the multitude of days we spent together, except you're no longer here. Counteracting loneliness is all part of grieving, keeping busy, sidestepping sadness, but you can't keep it up for long. Memories are lurking in every square inch of the house. They ambush me, jumping out from nowhere when I'm not looking. That saucepan we bought together, an old photo of you on the beach, a last jar of your homemade marmalade, reconnecting me with the you that made us for 44 years. This one I wrote at Christmas following Rosalind's death. She died on the 1st of August, which is the day before my birthday. So it's a date I'll never forget. And it just all came to me while I was getting ready for Christmas, which we celebrated pretty heavily. I think that's the right word, for many years. Yeah. It's just called The First Christmas Without You. I posted the cards, hung the wreath, and decorated the tree without you. I've wrapped the grandkids' presents and ordered the turkey, the nuts, the wine without you. On Christmas Eve, I'll sit in front of the fire, watch TV and listen to carols without you. On Christmas Day, I'll cook and have dinner, then fall asleep to the Queen's speech without you. On Boxing Day, I'll wear a new jumper, go for a walk and eat leftovers without you. Although I'll never buy you another present or kiss and thank you for yours, never again coast over the pudding while making a wish, I'll still celebrate Christmas, but from now on, without you. This one touched on another aspect of grieving suddenly. Well, it'll speak for itself, I hope. It's called What You Were. You are my counselor, my supervisor, my colleague and line manager. I'm sorry, it still makes me quite emotional. I was quite surprised, yeah. But, you know, after 5 years, I realized you don't actually get over it. You kind of get used to it. Anyway, I'll go back, sorry. You are my counselor, my supervisor, my colleague and line manager, my audience and witness, my biggest fan, my harshest critic, my reality check. We shared files, compared notes, ran things by one another, asked for opinions, argued and agreed, put things on the back burner for later. After your demise, there's no one now to tell me how I'm doing, where I'm going wrong, what I'm getting right, whether I'm on the ball or way off track. No one to pass comment on a haircut, new clothes, a meal, a painting, a poem, a thought. No daily dialogue, no intimate info, no one-to-ones. And there's a news blackout from you. No updates, no bulletins, no sit reps. So I have no idea what you're up to, how you're feeling, or even where you are right now. This lack of feedback is what I miss the most. Without you, I feel not quite here, a half-hearted demi-person, a loner who doesn't matter much to anyone anymore. This is another one which I hope will speak for itself. It's like another of these aperçus, just this little realization about something. It's just called The Last Time. We made love a week before you died, gently, with the sweetness born of 44 habitual years. There was no fanfare, no emotional welling up, no indication whatsoever that this time would be the last time. Another one, which again is kind of really directed at Rosalind, all the things I should have said, just called Postscript. Going through old albums, it strikes me now just how rich and full our life together was. Warm, close and creative, in and out of doors, all seasons, all celebrations, jam-packed with fun, flowers and your loving touch. It seems to me you were always smiling, laughing, hugging, dressing up, tending, caring, making, baking, trying new things, always active or at rest, little in between. Non-analytical, you lived in the here and now. We all ache for your vital presence at Christmas, on birthdays, at family gatherings. You cemented us, bonded us, kept us all together, holding us in your motherly embrace, selfless, forever giving, and happy in your own skin. Now you've gone, we have to make do with memories, old photos, your paintings, drawings, pots, but your essence is indelible, palpable still, all pervading like the fragrance of honeysuckle on a humid summer night. This is another one of the kind of mini battles you go through with yourself. It's just called a quandary. Now into a third year as a widower, I wonder why I still wear my wedding ring. Tradition tells it as a symbol of eternity, a constant reminder of the vows we make to love, honor, and obey, and is worn on the less used hand to preserve the gold, and on the fourth finger because the priest touched thumb, then fingers, intoning in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen, at the final word, placing the ring around the vena amoria, the vein of love connected to the heart, which turns out to be an anatomical fallacy, a mere dressing up of the archaic right of ownership. To me, it was a mutual pledge of sexual exclusivity, my phallic finger penetrating your proffered golden band and you accepting mine. With this ring I thee wed, we each vowed, in what we felt to be a sacred moment. To remove it now feels like an act of infidelity, a surreptitious crossing of a border, a selfish disregard, a no going back finality. Or am I still in denial, simply unable to let go and face the reality of your not here-ness? Whatever the reason, the act of taking off seems as potent, as life-changing, as irrevocable a commitment as the putting on. A quandary then, what to do and when? This next one is, I was doing an article on drug addiction and the coming off, the cold turkey, and the symptoms that people go through. Because I've had no experience of that, I did some research, and I was amazed reading it to discover how the symptoms of coming off of addictive drugs is so similar to grieving. And there seemed to be some kind of connection there. And it's all to do, you know, with aching, depression, aching body, and lots of tears and mucus and outflow of stuff. You know, it's quite extraordinary. Anyway, the poem goes, it's just called Cold Turkey. Our long life together was my source of pleasure, and like a drug, it gave me a high. But now I'm bereaved, it's like being deprived of my drug of choice. I am going cold turkey. It's so excruciating coming off the drug of us. Aching body, depression, deepest emotion, and non-stop tears. Oh, I crave our old life back. And if it were possible, I'd score again and relapse in an instant. I like, very interested in etymology, the derivation of words and their provenance. And I just found lots of interest around all the words you use during bereavement and mourning, etc. So I'll just read this. It's called Beriafian. Bereavement stems from the Old English beriafian, which means to be deprived of, to be robbed. To grieve stems from the Old French grever, which means to be afflicted, burdened, or oppressed. To mourn stems from the Old German murnan, which means to long for, to remember sorrowfully. What am I then if I feel deprived, robbed, afflicted, burdened, oppressed, sorrowful, and longing for you? In the 70 millennia Homo sapiens has walked the earth, no one has ever coined a word to mean all that. And this is the last one. This is probably the most Subudi one, in inverted commas, in that it refers to, I'm not sure if it's an Islamic tradition or an Indonesian tradition or an Indonesian Islamic tradition about the way the soul kind of goes backwards and forwards, finally leaving on the 1000th day. So this one's just called Coming Back. Oh, just take a mouthful, sorry. Some cultures believe the soul revisits Earth 4 times after death, the 1000th day being the last. 3 days after you died, you snuggled up to me in bed. I think you were as surprised and maybe as unnerved as I. Then 3 months later, when pleading for contact, arms outstretched, you touched my fingertip. I sensed you in the far corner of my soul, dressed in white. And I knew this was special, the utmost that could be revealed. Then on the 2nd anniversary, communing with your ashes down by the River Chess, I felt you again. Like a wave of light, you were the whole, but simultaneously an individual particle. And you reassured me that all was and would be well. Now I eagerly await, yet dread your farewell visit. Why dread? Because I intuit by now you will have shed your shyness and hesitancy, your holding back, your damage. And you will manifest purified, wholesome, and complete, and so full of divine love, knowing everything. And I'll sense that you see all my imperfections, my human failings, while you will have none. But you will not judge, because you are one again with the all that is. You have completed the journey. You have commended your spirit and come home to our Father. Oh, well done, my love. So very well done. Okay, that's all, folks. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Marcus. That was incredible. Yeah, very affecting. Before we move to comments or questions from our grateful audience here, I just want to go back to my Zoomuse book. I realize after I say what I thought I was saying that I neglected to mention a few other authors, poets who are here with us. First of all, there's Harris Smart, who is also in this volume. And Harris, of course, is the editor of Subud Voice, which is another of Marcus's ongoing contributions to the Subud community as the layout person and the designer for Subud Voice. And along with Harris, Maya Waterman. I don't know if I mentioned Maya and Harris the first time around, but I doubt that I did. So anyway, having gotten that out of the way, and my apologies to both of you, is there anybody else that I've missed? I don't think so. Anyway, so we'll go to comments and questions, and it's pretty simple. Just sort of raise your hand if you want to say something or ask a question, make a comment, and I'll recognize you in turn. And when I recognize you, you can unmute yourself and go. So who would like to go first? Oh, somebody always has their hand up. It's Susanna. Go ahead, Susanna.
Hello, I'm really sorry. I have to dash to another meeting, but all I want to say is I love you so much, Dad, and I'll speak to you soon. That was beautiful. Made me cry. Thank you for having me briefly. Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Goodbye, Susanna. Does somebody else want to say something? Theo, go ahead. Theo Salisbury.
Marcus, I've read, I think your two humorous books.
Yeah.
The two I remember. I have to say, I think your poems were just so fine. I'm just so moved by them. I don't consider myself a poet either. I've written a few, but I think you're a master in these poems. They convey so much. I think quotidian is a word I would use for the sort of everyday details that are so meaningful, even though they might appear trivial to an outsider or to someone who's not in the flow of your grief and your sort of partial recovery from grief. It's never complete, I'm sure. But I thought all of them were splendid poems, and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Theo. That's lovely. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I said, although I hadn't read her before, but I was trying to emulate Marie Howe, who seems to have the quality I seek in spades. Yeah, she's really, yeah. What did you say the word was for every day? Did you say quotidian?
Quotidian, I think, is a word that means that. Am I right?
Yeah, it sounds right. Yeah, I'm gonna make a note of that. I want to look up that.
I'm just so in love with words too, but that doesn't mean I always get them right.
Yeah,
but that really came through in your poetry, and
I'm thrilled. Thank you.
As a tool, as a means by which you convey so much rich feeling.
Thank you.
Thank you, Theo. Rabian, do you want to say something? I see your hand up.
Yeah. I bought the book. Marcus, you haven't mentioned the book, and I think it's a very worthwhile thing for people to buy.
Yeah.
The book on, I think it's called Berethian, isn't it?
Yeah, Berethian. Yeah, I've got a copy. I don't know if you can see it.
And I think, this was so moving because you were expressing your experience and not trying to be a poet.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, no, yeah, it was literally, a kind of not quite life-saving, but sanity-saving exercise. Yeah, and yeah, thank you. Yeah, Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. Yeah.
Thank you, Robbie-Ann. James, you want to go? Yeah, unmute yourself.
Yep. Marcus, I'm very moved with your poetry. I've experienced similar things to you, losing my first wife and also my stepson. What I can say, if this is any comfort to you, is I put my trust in God for the next part of your life, and also how you learn when people have died, what you have to learn. And it's all, we're like on a journey, really, from what I've experienced in our lives. And we're here to learn things, not for ourselves, but also from other people. So I was very moved, Marcus, for your honesty and also your poetry. That's what I'd like to say to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe be interesting to talk about that in private sometime. Yeah, having a shared experience. Yeah.
Thank you, James. Anybody else?
Helena.
Yeah, John Kill. Sorry, Helena. I'll let John Kill go first.
Right,
Mute yourself, John Kill.
I suppose what I wanted to say, Marcus, is that I was really touched by the content of the poems and the beauty of the way they were expressed. And I've got a kind of feeling of having eaten something very nourishing. And I don't feel at all articulate, apart from just to say that, and partly my silence is my inability to put into words that feeling of having been fed. So thank you very much for that. And it was filled with Rosalind.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, John Kill. Helena, do you want to go now?
I just simply, I found it very moving. I was actually moved to tears at times. And you have a very fine way with words.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helena. Adrian, do you want to go? Just unmute yourself first.
Hello, Mark. Is that right? Hi, Marcus. Rather like John Quill, I kind of, it's beyond words, I think, because what you said was so raw and so honest. It went right in, and we all miss her. You know what I mean? But it really brings home to you, our missing her it's not a patch on your missing her, but talking about her, which is so healing and important. My God, it really brought her back.
Yeah.
I think for all of us, that smile, that face. And I remember in Colombia once, we were by this river and she just stripped all her clothes and jumped into this river to swim. And we all sort of went with her. And, you know, later somebody said, well, there could have been snakes in there, or she didn't give a shit, you know. And that was a really lovely, lovely memory of her. And she just pops up now and again, you know, and you find Facebook friends. Oh God, there's Rosa, you know, it's a bit like that. But I think it was incredibly brave and honest and moving of you to share that depth of your grief with us. So thank you, if thank you is the right word, and I want to go away and cry. Thanks a bunch, Marcus.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you, Adrian. Hello, Lucy, do you have?
Hello, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Marcus, for being so brave. And I think it's that thing that people so often, you know, and I do or whatever, is that thing of being scared of grief and, you know, being afraid of grief. And it's like, so you're like poems are like sitting in the middle of grief and talking about it and putting it into words and tackling it. And, you know, it's like such a good example to us all on how to grapple with it, and how to deal with it and take it in both hands and wade through it. I just think it's sort of really healthy way of managing grief. But I think it is you can sort of feel that fear, that prickly fear of like, oh God, this is going to be awful, or it's going to be, it's going to be, and but you show that it's not awful. You show that it's manageable, and it's like, and you sort of illustrate all the beauty. So I just think it's just really, thank you. It's just really grateful.
Oh, thanks, Lucy. Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Anybody else here want to offer something? Yes, Miranda, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Marcus, I don't have anything to add really, because everything's been said, but I think they're absolutely fantastic, your poems, and I had no idea that you were writing poems as well as everything else, all the other things you do. You're amazingly talented with words, and this is just another example of your abilities, and it was moving, and it was very beautiful. Also, I think what you said at the beginning about what I thought at the beginning, when you said, well, Rose died suddenly and it was a shock, and you didn't have time to think about it and say all those things that one should say. But I think that can happen anyway, and well, in my experience, that even if you still afterwards realize that there are all these things you should have said. So
that's true.
So I just think it's wonderful the way you did that, and well done.
No, it's very, very true. I've probably been thinking about things and saying things for the last 4.5 years. So, I do know what you mean. I wonder if it's the same for you, because you were widowed, weren't you, some years?
But that's what I mean about there were lots of things I never said, and I even though I knew, but you've said them now, so that's
great. Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda. Would anybody else like to say something? James, go ahead.
Okay, I remember Rosalind, very well actually, when I stood up at Loud Water. Do you think she's still with you, Marcus? Because I think that people's essence stays with you, and you try, you really learn from other people big time. I just wonder if you think that Rosalind's with you, really.
Not in the way I mentioned in that last poem in particular, because that was based on reality. No, not in a sense. No, I don't want to get into this world of spirituality, because I still don't really understand it. It's beyond the mind. But I don't know whether it's just because time passes, or whether, as is believed, that Rosalind has moved to another place and become part of everything. She's no longer an individual per se. Although I did have that sense that maybe in the afterlife you have that ability to be both, part and yet, like I said about light, like part of the waveform, but also an individual particle. But this moves into an area that's beyond me, my mind. So I'm not really sure. My feelings say no, because I haven't had any experiences lately, but I don't know, because I'm blind, you know, I just don't know.
No. It's
Great question.
interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah,
There's someone at Loudwater who can see people who are still on the earth. That's oh gosh, I've forgotten his name there. He's doing the gardening up at Loudwater. Sorry, I've forgotten his name. He's Matthew and Lila Armstrong. Matthew's got a unique gift, actually, but you know, this all opens up a different question, doesn't it, in terms of what happens with your soul when it dies. If anybody, no, I'm not trying to hog the meeting, but on August the 12th, if you look up at the stars on August the 12th, the Halley's Comet, or the tail of a comet, hits the Earth's atmosphere, and you see all these shooting stars going across the atmosphere, sort of thing. And if you're lucky, you can see into deep space. I mean deep space, real deep space. And if you ever see it, you think, wow, you know, we're just on this planet running around like headless chickens and mice. What are we? We're here really to learn things. So that's all I can say. I'm not going to hog the conversation, but your talk, Marcus, is brilliant, because you know, you're touching your stuff from the heart, of how you you know, you feel for Rosalind and etc. You miss her, but if you believe in trusting God, really, you know, have the doors open. That's all a thing I can say, because we're here to learn things. I'm not going to say any more than that. That's my experience anyway.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, James. Anybody else? Going once, twice, and 3 times. All right. So Marcus, Latifa, you're squeezing in at the end. Unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to say hello to Marcus and thank you very much for that. It was beautiful. It really touched me as well. And yeah, how do you do everything? So many things that I see your name on. So thank you for all of it. Nice to meet you here.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. Yes. And how do I do? I don't know. One just does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Just do what you have to.
Better than sitting alone with my head.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Latifa. So Marcus, before we sign off, is there any final thoughts that you want to leave with us?
No, I mean, there was only one thing I didn't mention that I'd forgotten. It was about the poem about cold turkey. You know, it's not only grieving. I think that parallel with going cold turkey also is about any relationship breaking up. I think, you know, maybe about any loss. We get that, you know, loss of a job we loved, or loss of, you know, a friend, or, you know, lose all our money, whatever. You know, it's there is that kind of parallel between coming off a drug, and I think it's all explained by neuroscientists in that we get these. I mean, I know in a book I read about neuroscience, it was saying that mathematicians and musicians and linguists and taxi drivers have this dense condensation, a little knot of ganglia in their brain, which is all, you know, where it's kind of because there's an intensity of knowledge gathered at that point. And I think there is then a connection with I don't know the names, dopamine and all those, the drugs that make us happy, that we, you know, the hormones that make us happy. And I think that probably happens to a junkie, and there's the drug like heroin or the opiate intensifies some part of the brain, and it then becomes responsible for dopamine production. And if the drug is taken away, then the body can't make dopamine, and so you go into depression. And it just seemed to be there. It seems to be worth exploring, but it'll have to be by academicians and scientists far cleverer than me. Just as I said, an aperçu. Lovely word, that. A little perception, but I can't take it anyway. It's too clever for me.
Interesting observation, actually.
Well, thank you very much, Marcus.
Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure, actually. Yeah, I just love doing it, kind of, getting ready for it. And yeah, and yeah, loved it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's been a blessing. Thank you for sharing. We've all been enriched by this.
Oh, that's great.
And just before we sign off, folks, a reminder that in 2 weeks' time, we'll have another Zoomuse. And this time we're going to have Paul Nelson, who's the chair of SICA USA. Paul is a poet, and he's going to be telling us about his take on poetry. So that's 2 weeks from today, and I hope you're able to join us. So thanks very much. Take care.
Thanks, Andrew. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.